All right, back by popular demand, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, presented by No Electricians Group, starring No Electricians Group. Viewer discretion is advised. There is swearing. Recommended not for kids. We start off with Frodo, Sam, and Samwise Joey in the mountains, trying to get to Mordor. Remember, they have to destroy the Ring of Power, if you don't remember from last movie. If you haven't watched the first movie production by No Electricians, I recommend you do. I will try to put the link below. They're being followed by a creature at this time, Gollum. In case you don't remember him before, he used to have the ring at one point. He tries to steal the ring back. They fight him off and they make him their bitch. Basically, he's like captured. Mr. Sang understands what the ring did to Gollum and befriends him because he needs him to guide him to Mordor. Samwise Joey doesn't trust him, thinks that he's just back there to steal the ring back, and he's all creepy and shit and weird. In the meantime, Lord Saruman is building up a giant orc army in Isengard, and he was a white wizard, and he turned evil basically, and is under Sauron's. He wants power too in armies. This is Isengard now as he builds his orc armies underground. The orcs have been killing, raping, and pillaging villages in Rohan, as you can see here. Rohan is here in the middle. As you can see, Mordor is at the far bottom corner. And up in the top left is where the Shire is, where we started our journey. The Riders of Rohan, they're basically like royal guard of warriors of Rohan, so they are to protect the king and the people. They return to the capital of Rohan, which is Edoras, from fighting off orcs, but the king's son died in battle. So, big deal here. King's son died in battle. The king, Theoden, is all creepy and shit now looking. He's weird. He's corrupt, and I'm sort of under some sort of power. At least it is apparent to us, anyways. He doesn't really care that his son died in battle. He just is like stone-faced like this. The king's nephew and niece, we have Eomer Stanley and Eowyn Stanley. They are siblings, in case it's not obvious. They beg the king to go to war and fight back against the orcs. But the king doesn't talk. He only whispers to his henchman, Katrina Wormtongue. And she's basically like whispering in his ear and leading all the people right now. It seems that he's possibly controlling him or influencing his decisions. The king whispers shit to Wormtongue, and she banishes Eomer from Rohan. He's the guy who leads the Riders of Rohan. And so Eomer is like, what the fuck? Eomer is furious and storms off in an orc-killing rage with the rest of the riders. Meanwhile, we're jumping around a lot in this story. It's kind of fucking annoying. The orcs that captured Mary Bros and Peppengoose last time, they had strict orders to return the hobbits to Saruman. But the Riders of Rohan came across them just by fluke in the night and attacked them and burnt them all. Mary Bros and Peppengoose, we see them crawl and escape into the forest. Aragorn, if you don't remember, and Gimli and LegoLass, they had been tracking down the orcs that are holding Mary Bros and Peppengoose for days, basically. They bump into Eomer and the Riders of Rohan because that's where the tracks led. And the Riders of Rohan explain that they basically slaughtered and burnt everyone in that group, but left no survivors. So they basically think that they also killed the hobbits. Everybody assumes the hobbits died, but Mary Bros and Peppergoose did escape into the forest, and they get captured by a tree creature called an Ent. So they're basically like living trees with faces from your nightmares. This dude, actually, he looks pretty cool. Not gonna lie. The Ent thinks that they are orcs, and they decide to take him to a white wizard he met only a few days prior to decide what their fate is going to be. Turns out the white guy is Gandalf. He's alive somehow. It wasn't fully explained to us, but he's now a white wizard, not a gray area wizard. So we're like, what the fuck? He explained now, he explains how he battled and defeated the Balrog, if you remember from movie 1, this fire demon guy. Um, yeah, and then without hearing anything more, we just cut back to the other people in the movie. Just out of nowhere. Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. Uh, Aragorn still is tracking the hobbits into the forest, and they lead them out of the death pile into the forest and get blinded by a white light. And of course, it's Gandalf the White, even though we were just with him with the fucking hobbits. But nonetheless, they are here talking with Gandalf. Gandalf explains the hobbits left on another mission, and he needs Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas to go out and try to gather all men and prepare everybody for war against the evil orcs and Mordor and all of the evil. Aragorn's like, yeah, okay, I guess. And Gimli's like, whatever. So Gandalf, Gimli, and Legolas, and Aragorn, they ride to Rohan to convince the former allegiance of men and everybody, I guess elves and stuff, to go to war against the dark forces. The group quickly learns that the king is sick, and Katrina Wormtongue is in charge right now. She demands that they give up their weapons before seeing the king. Eowyn's there. She lives there, too. Katrina Wormtongue whispers things in the king's ear and explains Gandalf, the gray area, is there to see him. Even though they're standing right fucking in front of him, she tells him this. Gandalf knows that the king is under control by some sort of magic, so he reveals he is a powerful white wizard now instead of just a weak gray wizard, and uses magic to try to rid the spell from the king. Sauromander's magic gets pushed out of the king and sending Sauromander flying back into his evil tower where he was controlling him from. The king seems to snap out of it, and he slowly starts to look more like himself. Gandalf tells King Theoden what's been going on, because he fucking didn't know, he was clueless, and begs him and his people to join the fight versus Sauron. Instead, Theoden decides to take his people and hide and defend themselves at Helms Deep, which has never been defeated before. So he doesn't want to go to war, he just wants to hide and protect his own people. King Theoden. This is Helm's Deep, where they are planned to hold up and defend their people from the orcs. Meanwhile, we jump back to the hobbits. Bilbo Baggins is chilling back in Riverdale, not giving a fuck about what's happening out there. He's just on his retirement in Florida of Middle Earth. The other hobbits are getting close to the gates of Mordor, where they see armies and armies gathering. Gollum convinces them to not go through the gate and to take them the long way around. Samwise Joey does not trust Gollum still and thinks he is leading them into a trap, or is trying to get the ring back. Yeah. During this time, Schmiegel's bipolar and talking to himself, and sometimes he's Gollum, sometimes he's Schmiegel, sometimes he's Gollum, sometimes he's Schmiegel talking to himself. Clearly cray-cray. Anyways, Samwise, Joey, Frodo, and Gollum, they go off and they see more armies coming from Mordor, and so they decide to get out of there. Well, watching the armies of Mordor come together, they get ambushed by another group of men. They were attacking the armies at the time, but they thought they were orcs too, so they attacked them and captured them. They get brought back to a cave, and it turns out the leader of the group is Faramir. He is Boromir's brother, who unfortunately died in the first movie. Frodo pleads to Faramir and his men to let him go. But as a typical man, Faramir says no and decides to bring the ring back to his people and try to use its power. Then randomly we cut to like an Aragorn wet dream, and he's like dreaming all sorts about love and shit. And then Elrond cuts in and is like, yo, you're gonna get old and fat, and she's like gonna stay young and flexible forever. So you need to let her go and be with your own people and let her fuck off to the Undying Lands, because yeah, you're part man, so you're gonna die one day. But anyways, he snaps out of this fucking dream, which is the most random fucking thing ever, and we're back escorting the king and his people to Helm's Deep. They get attacked by orcs riding scary dogs that were sent by Saruman, and the gang fights them off so that the people can get to Helm's Deep safely. Aragorn, during the battle, falls off a cliff and looks like he falls to his death. And everyone thinks he's dead, but they win the battle. Eowyn gets the rest of the people to Helm's Deep, with the surviving warriors not far behind. We should probably check in back with, the hobbits again, because we like to jump around like this. They've been hanging out with a whole bunch of old fucking trees, trying to convince them to go to war. And nothing really happens, though, because they just talk forever, and then we cut back to Rohan again. Meh. I'm surprised. Look, Aragorn's not dead. He lands on the water, he floated away, and his lucky horse Lucy saves him, picks him up, and brings him to Helm's Deep. Like nothing happened. Some drama. On the way, they see a mass army approaching Helm's Deep, so Aragorn rushes and tries to warn the king. Theoden's super cocky, however, he believes that nothing can breach the walls. However, there's this little fucking tiny hole thing here that Isengard knew about, or Saruman knew about, and they plan to blow it up with dynamite, which should breach the wall. Basically, there was no men, so they had to send farmers and young children out to fight the battle for them. And Gimli, Aragorn, and LegoLass basically think everyone's going to die, which they do. So, yeah, anyways. But randomly, Elrond has a bunch of elf friends show up, and they're like, yeah, we will help fight the battle for you. We're going to win the battle. Anyway, the orcs arrive, and the battle ensues. And, they blow up the wall using a bomb. And in this little thing that's weirdly similar to the Death Star. But anyways, they blow it up. Everybody goes flying. They breach the wall. And they're overrun by orcs through the wall. And they have to retreat. Basically, everybody almost dies except all of the main characters you like. And we got to go back to the Ents and the Hobbitses. The Ents finally decided that they aren't going to go to war because it's not their fight. The Hobbits are kind of pissed off by this. Pep and Goose and Marybroth asked them to be dropped off near Isengard. And during that time, the Ents see that all the trees and the forests have been cut down by Saruman to build his armies now. And that pisses the trees off. They get mad and decide to go to war and attack Isengard while his armies are fighting in Helm's Deep. Right on. Faramir brings Frodo, Samwise, and Gollum to Gondorland, but they realize that it's under attack by Mordor's armies. Faramir brings them into the city, but it's under attack, and the Nazgul start showing up because they sense the ring and they want the ring back. Frodo gets lured in by the ring's powers and almost gives it up to one of the Nazguls, but he gets saved last minute by Samwise Joey. We gotta go back to Helm's Deep now, and everyone's trapped inside Helm's Deep last holdup in the mountains because the wall was breached and there's only the main characters surviving, basically. Aragorn gets his crazy ideas. He's like, let's just fucking party and get out of here. But no, he's like, let's ride out one last time and die with honor. So they ride out and meet all the orcs as daylight's coming up, fighting everybody off, just the fucking 4 of them or 5 of them. And then out of nowhere, they look up and Gandalf finally arrives with help with the Riders of Rohan at the top of the hill. Gandalf leads them down this stupid ass hill, that stupid, steep, crazy ass hill. And they fight and kill and scare off the remaining orc army. The Ents destroy Saruman's army building base, And Mary Bross passes out at the after party as usual. Frodo, Samwise, and Gollum continue their journey into Mordor to destroy the ring. And that's basically leading into the third movie. The remaining orcs at Helms Deep run off scared into the woods or back to Mordor. And the battle for Helms Deep is over. But the battle for Middle-earth is about to begin.